are people that want this job. Senator, great to see you. Your reaction?
Well, first of all, I think Mitch McConnell's, whether you liked him or not, is the most consequential Republican senator of the last quarter century, and maybe senator, period, in terms of the work he's done on so many different issues. I think it'll be hard to have another Mitch McConnell in that regard, just in terms of impact, because of the way the world has changed. Now, I do think this, and we have plenty of time to figure this out. We'll see who's interested, and, we got good people and so forth. And we've got members that are going to get elected in November that hopefully will put us in the majority. But those members deserve to have a voice in what happens here as well, not just a coronation in November. But I would say this, and this is what it's important. I think this is important for Republicans. And we have to understand that every race we win from now on and all the support we get from now on is coming from voters who are looking for leaders that will do some pretty simple things. Secure our border, get control, stop this mass migration, deal with the runaway government spending, get that under control, start making more things in America, stop sending jobs overseas. And when it comes to things that we deal with on a regular basis, prioritize and say, okay, before anything else, I'm going to make sure something is good for American and good for Americans. Imagine that, putting American and Americans as your number one priority above anything else. And that doesn't mean we disengage from the world. It just means that everything we do in the world has to be viewed through that lens. These are pretty common sense things. These are not extremist things. These are common sense. The extremists are the people who are against that. So that's what's feeding our party. That's what's feeding our growth. That's what, if we are fortunate enough to take the majority, it'll be because of people who are elected campaigning on those things. And I think our next leader, our leaders, period, have to reflect that, have to respect that, have to be people who not just believe that, but will not view it as hostility or radicalism. And so I do think that'll be an important criteria. And every decision we make now, between now and November, whether it's here in the Senate, what they do in the House, or even how we vote for people for these offices back home.
Right. So Donald Trump, 2 court cases yesterday. Number one, the immunity will be taken up by the Supreme Court. And number 2, Illinois and some lark is going to try to keep him off the ballot. I don't expect that to work. But when it comes to immunity, were you surprised that Governor Haley came out and said Trump should not be entirely immune from criminal penalties? Even though they're going at it, and you know what it's like to go out with the President of the United States in the primaries, do you think that is something that's helpful?
Well, I don't know. I mean, she's in a campaign, so I imagine she's got a reason to say that in terms of she thinks that gives her an advantage, and things happen in campaigns. So I always view those things as tactics and so forth, and generally don't like to get in the back and forth of campaign rhetoric. I will say this, though, generally, and that's we've never seen anything like it. I mean, you're now talking about, I've lost count of all the cases that involve everything from trying to bankrupt a man to make time up in court with multiple federal indictments, and now state prosecutors getting in the mix. In essence, it's like we have seen them unleash this cabal of lawyers, prosecutors, and so forth, all designed to achieve one thing, and that is prevent Donald Trump from even being on the ballot, even having a chance to get elected. That has no precedent in American history, none. If this was happening in another country, if we were to see, we would be sanctioning that country right now. We would be saying this country is using their court system to interfere and prevent elections. In Venezuela, the leading candidate against the Maduro regime is not going to be able to be on the ballot because the Maduro regime has banned her from being on the ballot. And everyone here recognizes that as outrageous.
But Senator,
we're seeing that effort here in America.
Senator, you realize the only reason we had a reapproachment with Venezuela, you want their dirty oil, and we said you better have honest and fair elections. They already not having honest and fair elections. We should put the sanctions back on them, but we're not doing that.
You know why? Because part of that deal, which didn't get picked up by a lot of people, was one of the things Venezuela did is, and by the way, we'll accept your deportation flights. We'll take some of your deportees. Now, Maduro's basically saying, we're not going to take any more of your deportees. He's extorting Biden. He's extorting America by saying we won't. So this guy, this animal who killed this young lady in that tragedy in Georgia, if we wanted to deport him back to Venezuela, you can't, because the Venezuelans won't take him. Look, I think there's another topic to talk about here and more to talk about in the days to come. But a lot of these, there's this horrible gang in Venezuela, and they've been in Peru now and in Colombia and in different countries for a couple years. Now they're starting to work their way here. And the overwhelming majority of the Venezuelans who have left, and it's over 7-8 million now, are not criminals. But there are thousands of them that have come that are, and they are now running roughshod in big cities like Chicago and in New York. But you see it, no place is immune. Even Georgia's now feeling it. We're going to have a huge crime wave because some of these people are dangerous criminals from all over the world, by the way. And it's not because they're migrants, it's because they're criminals. You let in 6.2, 6.3 million people. Some percentage of them are going to be criminals, and they're not suddenly going to become stockbrokers. They're going to come here and commit crime, and that's all on Joe Biden. He
And we're
created
se-
this.
I know, and we're seeing it in real time. You're not talking in theory and it could happen. It is happening,
It is
what you're
happening,
saying.
yeah.
Thanks
It's
so
going to
much.
get worse.
All right, Senator, thanks so much. Stay on top of it. I know you will. Meanwhile,